The wind cut across the plains like a blade, dragging dust in from the north and painting the skies above Silver Ridge a dull shade of copper. The sun hung low, casting long shadows over the warped wooden planks of the town's main street. The sound of hooves echoed down the alleyways, drawing gazes from porch swings, saloon doors, and dusty window slats. A lone rider entered the town, slow and deliberate. He wore a long trail coat, sun-faded and dirt-stained, and a low-brimmed hat shadowed most of his face. But even in shadow, people knew him. "Redmaw Turner," muttered a man outside the blacksmith's. "Thought he was dead," whispered another from the general store. Cal. Redmaw Turner didn't look left or right. He'd learned a long time ago that folks would talk no matter what you did. Some remembered him as the man who held the line at Dry River Pass. Others recalled the rumors of a younger Redmaw riding with men who painted the West in blood. Either way, he didn't aim to stir trouble, not anymore. His horse, a dark roan with one white eye, clopped to a stop outside Skeeter's saloon, the crooked sign above it swaying in the wind. Cal stepped down, stretched the stiffness from his back, and walked inside. The saloon was dim, hazy with pipe smoke and the sharp tang of spilled whiskey. At the bar stood Ma Skeeter, built like a whiskey barrel and just as tough. She ran the place with iron grit, and rumor had it she once broke a man's nose with a poker for reaching over her counter. "You look like hell," she said. Not looking up from wiping a glass. "I feel worse," Cal replied. "Room still cost $2? Ma gave him a glance, then nodded. "Second floor, corner. Sheets were washed this week. Maybe." He dropped a few silver coins on the counter. She snatched them up without another word. As Cal climbed the stairs, he passed a young woman descending. Her dress was simple but clean, her dark hair tied back, eyes sharp and curious. She carried a stack of worn books, cradled like they were something sacred. "Afternoon, ma'am," Cal said, tipping his hat. "Good afternoon," she replied. "You new in town?" "Just passing through. Might stay a spell, if the wind don't blow me out." "I hope it does," she said with a small smile, then paused. I hope you stay. Silver Ridge could use more decent folk." Cal raised an eyebrow. "Don't know if decent is the first word folks would use for me." "Then let's say hopeful," she said, offering a hand. "Grace Harper. I teach the children at the chapel schoolhouse." He shook it gently. "Cal Turner." Her eyes searched his for a moment. "Turner? They call me a lot of things," he interrupted. "Most of 'em earned." Grace's expression tightened just slightly, but she nodded. "Well, Mr. Turner, if you're looking to do good, you'll find no shortage of need here. The ranches are hurting. Rustlers mostly." "I heard," Cal said. "Anyone in particular?" "Black spurs," she said quietly. "They come in the night. Leave the herds scattered and men bleeding. Ranchers are scared." The sheriff stretched thin. Cal's jaw tightened. "The name wasn't unfamiliar. Black Spur McCain still leading them?" he asked. "You know him?" Grace's voice held an edge now. "Used to," Cal said, stepping aside to let her pass. "Long time ago." Grace gave him a long look, curious, wary, but said nothing more. She continued down the stairs, her boots clicking against the wood. Cal watched her go, then turned toward his room. Outside, the wind howled again, throwing dust against the windows. He was supposed to be done with all that. Guns, blood, and outlaws. But it seemed fate had other plans. Silver Ridge wasn't just a stopover. It was the start of something. And maybe, just maybe, it would be his chance to finally set things right. The morning after Cal Turner arrived in Silver Ridge, the town was already buzzing with bad news. Another raid. Greenfield Ranch had been hit during the night. 4 head of cattle stolen, a barn torched, one ranch hand unaccounted for. Folks didn't need proof. It had all the marks of the Black Spurs. Inside Skeeter's saloon, voices grew louder with fear and frustration. Cal sat at a corner table, drinking strong coffee, eyes scanning the room. Most avoided his gaze. Others watched him the way you'd watch a rattlesnake sleeping, curious, but smart enough not to get too close. The saloon doors banged open. Samuel Harper, Grace's brother, stormed in, dust on his boots, shirt damp with sweat, anger on his face. "Read," he shouted. "Where the hell's the law in this town?" The sheriff, a wiry man in his 50s named Amos Reed, sat near the back nursing a cup of whiskey. He didn't flinch. "You get hit again?" Reed asked, slow and flat. "They burned our feed barn," Samuel growled. "Stole calves right out of the pen. Shot our dog for barking. What more do you need?" Reed let out a sigh and stood. "I'm down 2 deputies and got a town full of drunk cowhands." "You think I ain't trying?" Samuel turned, looking for someone, anyone, to join him. His eyes landed on Cal. "You," he snapped. "You know about rustlers." "Ride with me." Cal leaned back in his chair, cool as ever. "Why should I?" "Because I don't care what you were," Samuel said. "We need men who know how to shoot." Cal stood and nodded. "I'll ride." Reed gave Cal a long look. "You step out of line, Turner, and I'll bury you in the Badlands." Cal nodded once. "Fair deal." They left before noon, riding hard toward Greenfield land. The sky above was a hard, unforgiving blue. Heat shimmered across the plains. Cal rode with purpose, his rifle strapped behind him and revolver at his hip. Samuel said little, keeping his distance. At the ranch, smoke still drifted from the barn's charred remains. Flies swarmed the carcass of a dog near the fence. Cal dismounted and knelt in the dust, scanning tracks. 3 riders, maybe 4, he muttered. "Headed northwest, fast." "Drove the cattle hard," Samuel frowned. "Into the ravine?" "Most likely. Good cover, and they've used it before." They followed the trail, weaving through brush and dry creek beds. The tracks were clear, deep, fresh, and careless. Rustlers had grown bold. 2 miles in, Cal raised a hand, signaling stop. He pointed toward a ridge above the gulch. Smoke curled into the sky. "Campfire," he said. "They're there." They tied off their horses and crept forward on foot. From behind a cluster of rocks they saw them, 3 black spurs. 2 tended to the calves. One stood lookout, a rifle resting across his chest. Their black bandanas and iron spurs left no doubt. Cal whispered, "We take 'em fast." Samuel nodded, drew his revolver and fired the first shot, caught one square in the chest. The lookout scrambled to return fire, but Cal dropped him with a clean shot. The last rustler tried to run but caught a bullet through the thigh and collapsed screaming. Cal dragged him over, tore down his bandana. "Young, couldn't have been older than 20. You ride with McCain?" Cal asked. The rustler nodded, teeth red with blood. "And he's coming for this town." "You can't stop him." Cal's jaw clenched. "We'll see about that." They found 3 stolen calves, shaken but alive. As they rode back, Samuel glanced at Cal. "You knew him," he said quietly. "McCain," Cal nodded. "Too well." Samuel didn't press, but Cal felt it in his bones. This was just the beginning. The black spurs weren't finished, and neither was he. Sheriff Amos Reed stood on the steps of his office, watching as Cal and Samuel led the stolen calves back into Silver Ridge. The whole town seemed to pause. Merchants, drunks, ranchers, they all stopped to look. It wasn't every day someone rode back from Black Spur country with bullets spent and rustlers behind them. But while some saw victory, others only saw suspicion. "You see who that is?" Someone whispered. "That's Redmaw Turner. Rode with outlaws before. He's the reason McCain's after us." By nightfall, the saloon was tense. Even the piano player had gone quiet. Cal sat at the far end of the bar, nursing a whiskey that had long gone warm. His back was to the wall, out of habit, and his eyes scanned the room like a man who'd seen ambushes before. Sheriff Reed approached. "Hat in hand. Hell of a thing you pulled today," Reed said. Cal didn't look up. "Wasn't just me." Reed nodded, then lowered his voice. "But folks are talking. McCain's raids have been getting worse since you showed. Some think he's following you." Cal turned to face him. "He is." That earned a long stare. "You ever ride with him?" Reed asked. Cal didn't answer right away. Then he spoke low. "Years back, before he called himself Black Spur. He was fast with a gun and faster with a lie. Thought we were just looking to live free. Turned out he wanted to rule by fear. And you?" "I left," Cal said, "after he ordered a town torched over a debt. I walked out, never looked back." Reed gave a long sigh. "Well, now he's looking back. Right at you. And at us." Later that evening, Cal stepped outside for air. The desert wind was cool now, carrying with it the scent of creosote and gunpowder memories. As he leaned against the rail, he heard footsteps behind him. It was Grace Harper. "You're bleeding," she said softly. Gesturing to his side, Cal looked down, surprised by a small tear in his shirt and the dark stain beneath. "Must have caught a graze earlier. Didn't notice. Come with me," she said. "Let me clean it." He followed her to the small schoolhouse, where she lived in a modest room behind the classroom. She sat him down, lit a lantern, and worked silently with a wet cloth and bandages. "You shouldn't be out there alone," she said after a while. "McCain's not a man to play games?" "I'm not playing," Cal muttered. "Just settling old scores." Grace paused. "Is that why you came here? Revenge?" He looked at her then, tired eyes hard with old pain. "I came to find peace. Maybe work with cattle. Maybe help build something instead of breaking it. But the past don't let go easy." "You can still choose," she said. "People may not trust you yet, but they're watching. They'll follow a man who's trying to make things right. I ain't no leader." "No," she said with a faint smile. "You're a stubborn fool, but you're brave. And that counts for something in this town." He looked away, jaw tight. "McCain won't stop. Not until this town's ash. I know how he thinks. We need to be ready." Grace's expression changed, something between fear and resolve. "Then help us," she said. "Stay. Fight." He stood slowly, wincing as he adjusted his coat. "I never wanted to be a hero, Grace." She looked at him steady. "Maybe not. But sometimes the town doesn't need a hero. It needs a man who's survived hell and is still willing to stand in front of the fire." Outside, thunder rolled across the distant mountains. The storm was coming. And this time, Cal Turner wasn't running from it. The sun hung low like a blood-orange eye over the ridges west of Silver Ridge, casting long shadows across the plain. A posse of 9 riders moved in silence across the cracked earth. Dust swirled behind their horses as the wind began to pick up. At the front rode Sheriff Amos Reed, grizzled and grim. Beside him were Cal Turner and Samuel Harper, the latter still stiff from the bullet wound he'd taken days earlier. Cal had insisted he stay behind. "Samuel insisted he didn't care. He stole our blood," Samuel said through clenched teeth. "I'll be there when we take it back." The group was headed to Devil's Bluff, a stretch of broken canyon and sandstone cliffs. Word was, a wounded rustler from the last skirmish had been tracked heading there, possibly limping back to a hidden Black Spur camp. Among the riders was Amherst Greenfield, wealthy ranch owner and now suspiciously cooperative. Cal kept an eye on him. Something about the man didn't sit right. Too quiet, too clean. He rode like a man expecting things to go his way. They reached the edge of the bluff, just as the sky began to turn gold. Cal dismounted and crouched, examining fresh tracks in the sand. 3 horses, heavy load, he murmured. "Not far," Reed motioned for silence. "We move in slow, no heroics." But as they moved forward, a sharp whistle echoed from the canyon wall. Then hell broke loose. Gunfire exploded from above. Muzzle flashes lit the ridge as bullets tore through the dry air. One of the ranch hands cried out and fell. Horses panicked, rearing and breaking away. "It's a trap," Reed shouted, ducking behind a rock. "Take cover!" Cal pulled Samuel down behind a boulder just as a bullet split the air where his head had been. "They were waiting for us." Samuel barked, Cal's jaw tightened. Someone told them we were coming. And then he saw it. Greenfield crouched behind a log, rifle still slung over his back, not firing a shot. Cal crept low and rushed him, grabbing the older man by the collar and slamming him against a rock wall. "You son of a snake," Cal hissed. "You led us into this." Greenfield didn't even deny it. "I tried to contain the damage," he gasped. "McCain gave me a deal, told me if I kept him informed, he'd leave my ranch alone." "And what about the rest of us?" "I didn't think he'd go this far." "You gave him the damn trail map," Cal growled. "He was waiting on this ambush." Before Greenfield could answer, a shot cracked nearby. Cal ducked, spun, and returned fire, hitting one of the Black Spurs as he tried to retreat behind a rock. Sheriff Reed charged up the ridge with 2 others, flanking the shooters. The ambushers weren't expecting a fight this fierce. Within minutes, the tide had turned. The last rustler dropped his rifle and fled into the trees. The canyon fell quiet, save for the groans of the wounded and the dying. Reed approached Greenfield, spitting in the dirt. "You're under arrest for conspiracy and aiding outlaws," he said. "You'll swing for this." Greenfield said nothing. Later, as the sun finally dipped below the horizon, Cal sat beside a fire, wrapping a fresh cut on his arm. Samuel limped over, bloodied but alive. "I thought you said you were just passing through," Samuel said. "I was. And now?" Cal stared into the fire. "Now I'm staying. Because it wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Black Spur McCain wasn't just raiding. He was preparing for war." The jailhouse in Silver Ridge creaked under the weight of silence. Inside, Amherst Greenfield sat behind iron bars, head bowed, shirt stained with sweat and dust. Outside, the townsfolk gathered in tight knots, talking, arguing, whispering. Some wanted him hanged by morning. Others, especially wealthier ranchers, hesitated. After all, Greenfield had been a pillar of the community. Sheriff Reed paced inside his office, revolver on his belt, jaw tight with frustration. "You see it now?" he said, turning to Cal Turner, who stood against the far wall. "This town ain't just afraid of the Black Spurs," Cal replied. "It's torn in two," Reed gave a bitter nod. "Half the folks around here have been paying McCain off, hoping he'll take his blood tax and move on. Greenfield's just the first to get caught." "He won't be the last," Cal muttered. At that moment, the saloon bell rang. Footsteps pounded on the boardwalk outside. A deputy burst in, face pale as snow. "They hit Larkspur Ranch, Sheriff. Burned it to the ground." "Shot the hands in their bunks." Reed went still. "Any survivors?" "Just one. Said McCain left a message." The deputy handed over a folded piece of parchment. Reed read it aloud, voice flat and cold. "Tell Redmaw Turner he brought the fire with him. Tell him if he wants peace, meet me at Cinder Valley 3 days from now." "He comes alone." Cal stared out the window. Rain had begun to fall, rare, soft, and cold. He'd wanted to put all this behind him. But McCain hadn't just returned to settle scores. He was sending a message. No redemption comes without a price. The next day, Cal walked the length of Silver Ridge, past boarded-up storefronts, past the schoolhouse where Grace Harper packed away books, preparing for closure. Too many parents were pulling their children, heading east, away from the bloodshed. "You're really going to face him?" she asked as he approached. "I don't have much choice. You always have a choice." He looked at her, tired and worn. "If I don't go, he burns every ranch from here to Cheyenne." Grace reached into her pocket, pulling out a silver locket. "My father's. He wore it in the war. Said it reminded him what he was fighting for." She placed it in Cal's hand. "Come back alive," she whispered. Cal nodded, but said nothing. He wasn't sure he could promise that. That night, Cal prepared his gear at the edge of town. A single horse, a bedroll, 2 revolvers, a Winchester rifle, and the silver locket around his neck. Samuel Harper approached, arm still in a sling. "I heard you're riding out alone," he said. "That's suicide." "Maybe," Samuel looked him over. "I don't like you much, Turner. But you stood when others ran. You fight when others hide. If you come back, there'll be a place for you here." Cal just nodded. Then he mounted up and rode off into the storm. 3 days later, the plains of Cinder Valley stretched before him, flat, dry, and wide open. The kind of place made for a final reckoning. As the sun broke through storm clouds, Cal saw them in the distance, Black Spur McCain and a dozen of his riders, waiting in silence. McCain stepped forward, dressed in black, silver spurs glinting with each step. His face, aged by years of violence, curled into a slow smile. "Well now," he said. "Ain't this something?" Cal dismounted. "No tricks," he said. "You and me." McCain's eyes narrowed. "You still believe in honor, Redmaw? After all this?" Cal's fingers hovered near his holster. "I believe in ending things. And somewhere deep inside that wide, empty valley, the fate of Silver Ridge would be decided." The valley was silent. No birds. No wind, just the slow creak of leather and the tension between 2 men who had once ridden side by side. Cal Redmaw Turner stood 20 paces from Black Spur McCain, both hands hovering near their holsters, eyes locked like wolves over a fresh kill. Behind McCain, a dozen Black Spurs waited on horseback, all armed, all watching. Cal had come alone, or so it seemed. "You always had a death wish," McCain said, smirking beneath his black hat. "Could have joined me again." Could have had power, respect. You call this respect? Cal asked. Burning homes. Killing sleeping men? It's the law of the land, Redmaw. You either own it or it owns you, Cal shook his head. You forgot something. What's that? There's still folks out here who believe in right. And they ain't afraid no more. McCain's smirk faded. Then let's finish this. Time stopped. Both men moved, faster than thought. 2 flashes, 2 cracks. 1 heartbeat, Cal's shot hit McCain in the shoulder, spinning him. McCain's bullet grazed Cal's side, tearing his coat. But it wasn't over. McCain lunged forward, blood pouring from his wound, drawing a long knife from his belt. Cal barely had time to react, grabbing McCain's arm as they collided and crashing to the dust in a tangled fight, fists, dust, blood. The black spurs cheered wildly until another sound echoed through the canyon. Hooves, riders. From the east came a new posse, Sheriff Reed, Samuel Harper, and half the town, armed to the teeth and charging hard. Grace rode among them, firing into the air to scatter the spurs. Reed shouted, "Now!" Caught off guard, the black spurs broke formation. Gunfire cracked like thunder. Riders fell, horses screamed. Dust choked the sky. McCain shoved Cal off and stumbled to his feet, reaching for his revolver, but Cal was faster. 1 shot. Center chest. McCain staggered, stared at Cal in disbelief, and fell. It was over. The battle didn't last long. By sundown, the black spurs were dead, scattered, or captured. Sheriff Reed personally tied McCain's black hat to a post outside the jailhouse as a warning. The people of Silver Ridge gathered in silence. No celebration, just the quiet recognition that they'd faced the fire and survived. Cal sat outside Skeeter's saloon, bruised and bloodied, staring up at the sky. Grace found him there. "You did it," she said. "We all did. You kept your promise." He looked down at the silver locket around his neck and nodded. For once, she sat beside him close. "The town's talking about building a proper school, expanding, staying. They've got reason now. And you?" He looked out over the dusty street. The town was still rough around the edges, still wild, still bleeding, but for the first time it had hope. "I reckon I'll stick around," he said. "There's fences need building. Cattle need branding. Kids need teaching. And someone's got to ride herd on Reed before he starts handing out medals." Grace smiled. "You think folks will ever stop calling you Redmaw?" "Maybe, maybe not. But I ain't that man anymore." She took his hand. "No," she said. "You're something better." The wind blew through Silver Ridge again. But this time it didn't bring smoke or fear. It brought a future.